And welcome back to Straight Talk. And we're just going to further continue to discuss some of the aspects of what we were talking about before the break. Mike?
Yeah, because, like before the break we went and we talked about the criminal aspect of that file.
Right.
But there's also other issues that are in there, and I think Mohawk Council may still be looking at them just because a person, the charges weren't accepted in regards to the alleged altercation that happened, but there was other issues as a council chief, and we talked about this. It's funny because almost every show we end up talking about improper behavior on somebody,
A public figure.
So where do we go from here, and what's the policy? I mean, you're a target anyway, regardless, as a Mohawk Council chief and or police.
But you
you're
know
a
that
target,
before you
but,
go into it, at the same time, you are held to a higher standard, and that's part of the reason why you get elected.
Okay, but there is a process. There's a process, an internal process to the Mohawk Council for complaints like that. And I would gather that this is what we're talking about with the potential for further procedures to be followed, which doesn't prejudice. I mean, a point is that, say, in this case, Gus Guy was exonerated by virtue of the fact that there were no charges dropped, but there's
for that one altercation.
For the one altercation,
but there's other incidents
related
to that file, although that it wasn't. There's other things that had happened as a result of that, and it's all mixed. Right now it's all mixed. And
because
so
when it comes to law and stuff like that, I'm like not that.
Yeah.
But this is a policy. This is like a personnel policy within the Mohawk
not,
Council.
Yeah, but I mean, like when you look at the difference.
The legal part is as far as the allegations or the legal part or the criminal part, I should say, is gone. Let's say it's gone because it wasn't accepted. But now there's another issue on being improper or conducting yourself in an unprofessional manner in other issues. And I don't want to go into them because I don't know all this. I heard one side of it. I got information on one side, but I don't have everything.
Like a criminal and a civil suit type of thing.
So it's still being investigated by the
But we're not
Mohawk
talking
Council.
about that, though. The difference is O.J. Simpson in the United States would be one simplistic response to that answer. So there wasn't, according to the rules of evidence, there wasn't sufficient evidence for a jury to convict. However, in the civil courts down there, in his case, the requirement for a judgment was not nearly as severe as the criminal.
Right.
So, but we're not talking about in this case.
At the end of when it comes down to it, at the end of the day,
policy.
At the end of the day, conduct yourself as a professional and somebody who's supposed to be representing this community to everybody else, and then that's.
So
grow up.
The big question comes up, I mean, we've talked about this numbers of times.
Grow up.
Is if you presume to a position of leadership in the community, then you need to be very aware of your surroundings and your presentation within those, in the community.
If anything, you
In
have
all
to be
fairness, though,
hyper aware.
You also have to be prepared that sometimes you may be the target of nuisance stuff. I mean, you may be in a position and somebody says, I don't like you and I can go after you.
All right, so at the end of the day,
we'll
she has been exonerated in the charges.
The courts,
in the courts. Yeah. So, all right, so, and as far as I know, it still has to be addressed at the
Mohawk Council is still addressing that issue as well as other issues, and I guess we'll hear something sometime.
Eventually. Okay. All right, moving on. We're looking at the Turtle Island Theater Company. The fire chief gave them leeway to go back into the building to clean and fix some of the problems that were addressed. Part of the reasons why they were closed, or the doors were closed at the theater. MCK met with everyone last Wednesday, which included the church committee, MCK, K-Star Board, KSCS, Fire and Safety. All the people that were involved apparently were in there. There is going to be an alarm system, heat and smoke sensors, detectors, firewalls will be installed. Let's just say there's going to be a lot of stuff that needs to happen to that building to make it, or at least to bring it close to code, I would think.
But you know what?
Why?
No. Why is it we talked about this too. Why is it taking 10 years for all this to come to a head?
Yeah.
Why now?
Well, you
Why
know
not? People have known.
Well,
If there weren't
well,
smoke-
better now than never?
No, I agreed, but why did it have to come with shutting them down? Why, I mean, 10 years ago, they didn't know there were smoke detectors in there? I mean, between...
They're not in there.
But I'm gonna resolve the issue right now, is because nobody knows who owns the building, nobody's taking ownership of it. As of today, I'll take it,
Right.
and I'll take care of it, and I'll rent it to you.
Oh, if it was only so simple. You
But I
know.
mean, nobody
Have to
wants
what,
it,
apply to Rome?
nobody
or something,
wants
or-
to take responsible. They're
excuse me,
saying
never,
that,
never applied to Rome.
they're saying the church,
I said, no, because
Why?
the diocese may be trying to exert some control in Ganawagi over quote-unquote church property.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? You put the feelers out in the community. You're going to say, you know what?
Yeah.
That's community property.
And the thing too is like what essentially
but
what it
nobody
comes-
wants to take ownership of it. You know what, the church
That's
says
'cause
it's
there's
not,
bills attached.
it's not theirs, it's nobody owns it. So you know what,
Because there are liabilities attached.
so,
You know, come on now. I mean,
Yeah.
I think it's just like, how much do smoke detectors cost?
Oh, I know, no,
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know?
I know what you mean.
I'll give you
And the
a
thing
smoke
is when it
detector.
comes down to safety and the fact that maybe things have gone unchecked in the past, you know, that's all water under the bridge. The fact of the matter is this building has to be brought up to code before we can allow community members in to use it. That's to me. That's the bottom line.
And
It's
you
all
know
about
what?
safety.
and it is, and you know, we talked about this before, and I said, you know, they shouldn't
You're
have,
thinking
they
the
shouldn't
bolt
have.
cutters.
Yeah, that, and I still agree with, and I
Yeah.
still agree to do that.
Yeah.
There's still stuff that has to get done and cleaned up and everything else like that, but they should never have been stopped to do that.
Exactly.
They should have left it and said, look,
Let's
you
work
can't-
together.
You
Let's
can't
do
have
this."
any shows, but we're not locking you out. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and take care of all these things instead of lock the door and say, don't go back in until we tell you.
No, exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
Ridiculous.
I
See,
mean,
that
you
was
know
my
what?
and that was my point. It had nothing to do with whether or not they were right or wrong. You know, the fire department getting called to anything has to do and getting when they get called, unfortunately, they have one process to go and to follow the rules, and if they're not, then they say you can't. But
Yeah, but I just
unfortunately,
look at
it comes
the-
back again to whether they can do it or not.
Over the last
And
10 years,
anyway.
there were
Yeah.
guys who were involved with the fire department who attended shows there. And you know what it is.
Yeah, I
I'm
know,
just-
but
it's
then
ironic.
but nobody
It's
came
ironic.
forward, maybe, and actually filed or asked them to actually look into it. Maybe I don't know.
I don't know either.
You know that
I don't know.
the fact of the
It's
matter
good-
is
it's
it's
good
going
there's
to be
movement.
it's going to be
There's
getting
movement.
fixed, and
There's
they're going to be
movement.
doing
That's
they're
right.
going to be doing some major fundraisers. So if you know
But to
want
that
to
extent,
support,
is it Chief John
if you support-
Delormier is...
But who's doing the fundraising? How can you fundraise for a building that nobody owns or nobody wants to take responsibility for it? Am I going to give you money saying that you want to fix the building? How do I know it's your building? Whose building is it?
Well, if you read the Eastern...
And if it's the
if you-
Mohawk Councils,
if you-
why are we fundraising for the Mohawk Council?
Well, no, but yeah.
But
If
you
you
know,
read the
that's-
East-
and that's-
if you read
that's
the
my
Eastern
point.
Door, if you
So-
read the Eastern Door, Kevin John
Mm-hmm.
is in fact looking at other sources. Maybe we should have him on for comment.
And that's the point.
you know maybe we're going to have
Hold that thought, guys.
Yeah, hold that thought.
We're going to go to a break. You're listening to Straight Talk. We'll be right back after this.